Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and also for the ones of you who are going to see or to watch this or listen to this later, welcome to what is for us the very first situation session of what we call Data Talks. My name is Gianfranco Cecconi. I'm part of the team that for the European Commission runs two projects, the European Data Portal, that focuses on promoting open data across the member states. And on the other side, the Support Center for Data Sharing that extends the scope of the first project into the more complicated non-open dimension of data sharing. Our team across my company, Capgemini Invent, and the others that belongs to the consortia that deliver the two projects have experience and skills across this space that we developed. We had the privilege to develop over many years. I personally have been in open data and data sharing since 2013, but we never stopped learning, and we wanted to create one more channel to keep that learning going, particularly in time of COVID. Our projects naturally try to meet the member states and the companies and the protagonists of this complex, relatively new world that is data sharing and open data. With the pandemic, of course, we got grounded sometimes to our own home, like you see me in my home office at the moment. We wanted to compensate that, to complement that, and the choice was to try being more interactive, more direct online. So what we are trying today is a very informal format. You may see this similar to a podcast, but it's also being recorded live, in which every time we bring a guest, you may call it a protagonist of this world we work and we explore. We ask them about their experience informally, without any kind of pre-cooked agenda or target, to learn, because that is really what we want, and to share with the others. Before I introduce you to our volunteer guest for today, I wanted to make one last remark that is a strong invitation to you. So if you want to be our next guest, if you know someone who would be keen to do that, just let us know. At the end of the recording, we will reiterate what is the best way to find us, whether it is on social media, email, on our website. And you're very, very welcome to join us and share. One last bit, just for housekeeping, this video will be recorded, so if you don't like the idea of being seen or listened to, or your questions being captured in chat, please leave now, just to be absolutely clear. But don't do it, please. Stay with us. So our guest for today is Jelle Verburg, and I know a little Dutch, so perhaps I said that properly. Hi, Jelle.
Hi, Gianfranco. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, of course. Yes. Thank you, Gianfranco, and team for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be the first guest at the Data Talk of the European Data Portal. My name is Jelle Verburg. I am a product owner of the Dutch National Data Portal. We are part of the Ministry of Internal Affairs in the Netherlands. I'm working for a small organization. In Dutch, we call them Kennis- en Exploitatiecentrum Officiële Overheidspublicaties. So let's translate it in English. It's a center for official government publications. We are helping government with legally publications, and also we have a part in our organization who are busy with data and linked data, and I'm the product owner of the Dutch National Data Portal, and I'm gonna tell you about something about what we do, and why we cooperate with other countries and with the team of Gianfranco, of course.
I was on mute, classic. And since you named my team, it is absolutely due to introduce them as well. I believe I see online Eline, Laura, and Soraya, perhaps behind that nice logo we have. Eline, would you like to say one word just quickly before we go back to Jelle? You're on mute as well.
Very classic. Goedemiddag iedereen. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Elina, and I work on both the European Data Portal and the Support Center for Data Sharing Project. And I focus more on the communications aspect with both to build our network and to learn more from both the open data and data sharing community. It's a pleasure to meet all of you online. Laura? Or Soraya?
Hi everyone, so lovely to meet you as well. I'm really excited about this data talks. I'm very excited to learn more from Jelle Verburg. Thank you so much for agreeing to this, giving your time to us, informing us about your work, and I look forward to learning more about your expertise. As Alina, I'm also working on both of the projects I recently started, so I'm very eager to learn more.
And Laura, to close, if you like.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Also, very happy that Jelle, you've made the time to discuss with us today, but also everyone else in the audience. I always enjoy seeing people that are enthusiastic to discuss. So looking forward to.
Thank you. And we won't do this introduction every time because otherwise we will never come out of it. But because we will, many of us will be involved in this going forward, perhaps it's what's useful to show our faces a little, at least for the first time. So Jelle, back to you now. So the idea to invite you first is because you were kind enough to write for us like an op-ed for the European Data Portal in which you describe a little your work. And when you do, you start from, I was actually intrigued by this. You started from one specific story that is the kind of requests you get from your audience. So it's or from your public. The National Data Portal is, like most data portals in Europe, are service to the citizens. In what way do you see this service? And you are the product owner for that. So how do you see your role in running the portal?
Yes, well, first of all, the data portal was, we take a lot of years to, well, to collaborate data, to show the data the government has in the Netherlands. And nowadays we are working more about the reuse of data, more about to get insight in what is the impact of the data we opened all the years we did. Maybe I give you some short introduction in our policy, so you can follow more about why we are doing what we do. We're working on a policy that is called Digital Government Agenda. It's part of our digital agenda in the Netherlands. And one of the goals of the agenda is to work together in data sharing to combine and to analyze data. More specific, for the Dutch National Data Portal, we are working on improve the quality of data and use them efficiently. So working on the quality of data and to improve them, it is very helpful to keep in contact with our data users and reuses. Well, I think, in my opinion, data could contribute to a good, operate, and democratic government system. So last years, I think as I said, we had a lot of attention to open data, to create data, and a lot of work is doing with it. And the last, well, I think 2 years, we saw, okay, we opened a lot of data, about 15,000 data sets in our portal. Who is using the data, and how can we keep the questions with each other and to interact with each other? So to learn more about what kind of data is used in the Netherlands. So from our policy side, we are working on that topic, and that's one thing I want to share before I tell you something more about what we are really doing. But this is, I think, important to know that our policy is essential for us to work with it.
There's one point you made that I find quite important, that perhaps is not obvious to all of us who are watching this. That is, how come we don't know who is using the data? So one of the historical, not a paradox, but not even an issue, is simply a characteristics that may not necessarily be the most convenient one of open data, is that the fact that anybody can use it doesn't necessarily mean we know who they are. It is an intrinsic property of this freedom we want to give the user, that they are not required to phone us back and tell us, hey, Gianfranco, we're using your data, thank you. In most cases, licensing only requires them to refer to the source, the so-called attribution. At the same time, for ones like people like you or our team that needs to document or to understand how we are doing, it becomes very difficult because we have no idea of who they are on the other side of our website. We only know how many they are, or perhaps how many downloads they make of the data. Do you recognize your work in what I'm saying? I guess it's not just my problem, right?
No, I recognize what you're saying, and I think it should always be okay. We have open data from the government, and everyone who wants to reuse it could reuse it. That would be no discussion for us. But in my role as product owner of the data portal, the data portal is also a broker to bring supply and demand together. And therefore it would be very helpful to get more insight in who are the reusers, and how can the government play a role in sharing data, in opening data, and if we know what are the questions from the reusers, we can better improve our services and our data, and get more quality of our data within it.
Okay, so in a way, allowing reusers to make questions or to make requests indirectly becomes also a channel by which you find out who they are.
Yeah. So we organized, I think 4 or 5 years ago, we organized a channel on our portal. We call them data request, and this are requests users could do to us, and we help them to find data, to keep in contact with the organization who has the data, and this is a very useful product for us to get more insight in what kind of data your reusers need. And we have more than 180 government organizations who share the data on our portal. And so, for example, our Central Office for Statistics, or our Agency for Mobility and Infrastructure, or our Agency for Education. So we have a lot of teams where you can find data. To concentrate a little bit over the requests we have, it's helpful for us to keep the broker function in mind, and to better serve the services we do on this.
We can probably suggest you another trick that Cyprus taught us recently. You know that for our work we need to run every year a survey of how well the countries are performing in Europe in terms of open data. And the colleagues from Cyprus have confessed that, I don't remember why it happened, but one important data set was taken down from the portal one day. And suddenly they were attacked by the audience saying, where is the data set gone? Well, it's so important for us. So that's another trick you can use. Just take it down. just
Yeah.
and see what happens. Unfortunately, this worked well for them.
Oh, I have maybe some good example of it. There was a few years ago, one of our data owners, they said to us, "Oh, you can put this data down. You can don't show it." And we saw in our statistics that this was one of the top 10 data sets that reusers are downloading. So we said, well, maybe it's not a good idea. And so maybe it's a part of the example you mentioned about Cyprus. So we also have that kind of examples.
Tell me something. A question that we often get from other member states also is how your team works. How many people have you got? How you organized? And of course, it can be very different. I live also in the Netherlands, so the Netherlands is a small country relatively, but others may be much larger and so much bigger scope. Perhaps they are federal states that are inevitably a bit more complicated in terms of governance. How does the open data team in the Netherlands work?
Yeah. Well, the team of our portal is, let's make an, I said there was a policy. So we have some policy makers who are responsible for digital government agenda. This will be some 2 or 3 persons who are responsible for it. For the data portal, we were working with 5 or 6 people, one more technical, one more on the broker function. So we have some experts of it who are working on the portal. And for us, it is very essential to work and to collaborate with the other government organizations. So I mentioned the Central Office for Statistics, for example, or the cadastry. We have a lot of organizations who has data, and we are working together with these organizations to to get more insight in open data. So 5 or 6 people are working directly for the National Data Portal.
How is the relationship with the data providers like the statistical agency, the CBS? I mean, I guess that something I always wonder is how different the spectrum of data providers that someone in your position needs to serve is. Are the needs different? Some perhaps interact more, some interact less, some are more demanding, some are more laid back. How is that picture for you?
Well, the Netherlands is very decentralized. So the municipalities and the province and the central government all has its own authority and well, it's we are working with all them together, and well, working on standardization, working on questions of reuses, working on a lot of topics. So this is for us very important to work with them together and to get more knowledge from that organization. So for us, it's very important to learn from also from the other organizations. And well, I said the data portal as a broker function, so that's the kind of function we filled in. And yeah, as I mentioned, for us working with the other government organizations who has a lot of knowledge about the data is very helpful, and we're working good with them together.
Reading your piece that you wrote for us, you stress the fact that you are moving to creating more insight about impact. So not just who the reusers are, but how that reuse is creating impact for the Netherlands. Can you tell us a little more about it? Also,
yes,
you also named the French model. What's the French model?
Well, we are fans of the French model. Let me mention, as I mentioned, we have a policy side, and we are the last years working on creating open data, and now we want to move more about to get insight in who are the reusers, what are the questions, and finally, what is the impact of the data. I mentioned we have data request on our portal, but we saw, hey, let's do more. One of the things were also the open data maturity scans, who are every year we do we filled in the report, and we can we can see what other countries are doing. And one of the things we are very interesting when we were for a workshop in Paris was the French model, we call this. Well, it is working in data communities in specific domains. So for example, the French colleagues are working in the domain transport, and all in transport are working together with reusers, so some great businesses, or with the government, or with students, or with educations, and they are working together on one specific domain to share data, to use data, and to know what are the questions about data. So that was for us a really really good idea to see, hey, we want to see more about the impact of data. And well, we saw that as an example. And last year we are working on our communities in the Netherlands as well, and we are starting with data communities on the topics mobility, education. We are working on COVID as well. And we are starting our open data community, because we saw all questions about how can I reuse data, or how can I use some kind of data format, or that kind of questions. We are starting our data community with from the portal as well. But we are also on specific domains for education and mobility, and more domains are coming as well. So this will be the French example we mentioned.
Something you describe in your article is that it's not just about open data. Is that correct? Okay, can you tell us more about that?
Well, it's not only about open data, because open data will be available without any restrictions for any reuser as well. But it's interesting to know. What are we call them? Open shared data. A lot of data is very useful, but you have to recognize that some organizations must be let's say it in I'll translate in Dutch. I can go.
Try me. Try it.
A lot of data is available, but it's not on the specific open data, but on they have a restriction in it. For example, you have to go to the government and you say, "Hey, I want to use this data as well, because I have to fill in and to let know if I can use the data." This is a real example of data, what could be very useful for data. So open data is very clear; everyone can reuse it. But enclosing information on shared data set as well. Yeah, we will be demonstrate which data is collected, the legal basis for data processing. Which organizations owns the data. So on which conditions, that was the word I saw, the conditions, the reuse of data is also permitted. And in our opinion, this scenario, may lead to a specific request to data sharing. But the conditions for reuse data, this will be very important for us.
You seem still talking about the communities. How do you support them? How do they actually work? Because I understand that before COVID, of course, you were organizing actually physical meetings in Den Haag. How's it working?
Yeah, we organized a lot of years. The user meetings you mentioned. Well, this will very helpful for us to keep in contact with our reusers and to know what they want. Now we are organizing for education and mobility. We are organizing data communities. We started with a lot of government organizations who are in this domain, who has the specific knowledge about the data in this domain. That's for us a starting point. So we know the government organizations are in, and they could fill in the knowledge they have in this specific domain. So, for example, mobility, we have a lot of organizations who are. One of the organizations are in public transport. One of the organizations are in traffic data. Well, the topics who are in that specific domain, we want to know, okay, organizations, they could answer the questions about the data, they could provide interaction with data users. So that's for us a starting point. From there, we are working on, okay, let's take the data from a specific domain together, and we have some space we provide a platform where all the data sets within that specific domain can be gathered at one central location. There's all the data sets related to that domain or the topic can be stored also in this place, and bringing the related data together is for us to gain more insight into interaction with data, applications and use of data, and more about impact of data. So that's the way we started with communities, and maybe I can show you some community page of our portal. So
we probably can share them in the what that would be called the show notes. So if anybody coming back or in post-production, we can put this on screen. It will be easier. Probably
it's for everyone available on our portal. So you can choose and use what you want.
If you know Dutch, of course.
If you know Dutch, yes.
But I'm learning. Tell me something. We named the I word a few times, impact. So it's both your side with the Dutch portal and the European data portal. We need to find out more about who our users are, of course, but we also need to find a way to measure the effectiveness, the impact of what we do. And this is a question probably we get from everybody continuously. It's not just a problem of open data. In many other sectors, impact is a very difficult beast to tame, to control. Is the Dutch government, is the data strategy you work within, does it offer ways to measure impact, or for the time being, we are just getting better at understanding who their users are?
We are starting with collecting interaction and collecting questions from reusers and to help them. I think this is the next step we want to get frameworks. We call them impact frameworks to measure impact. So there are 4 kind of impacts. Also know about the maturity scan: political, economical, environmental, and social. And we are want to know more about that kind of impact in frameworks. So we organized last year some workshops in our user meeting to know more about what our users who are come to the meeting. What do they know about social impact, or what do they know about economical impact, and what are their expectations? So this for us a starting point to get an impact framework. We do not have it nowadays yet, but we are working on it. It's for the next step. And I am also very exciting if someone in Europe, maybe some other countries. I see French or Spain or Ireland. I see well some ideas to measure impact, but maybe it could be helpful to keep the knowledge together and to get more about okay, how to set up some impact framework from this.
That's something that we were challenged on as well. That
Yes.
is, because of the work we do for assessing open data maturity, we are asked to ask the countries what they do in terms of at least trying to assess impact. But
Yes.
in reality, there is no yet, say, a standard way to measure the impact of open data. There are a few proposals, a few institutions that worked on it, but nothing that yet is very consolidated, something everybody agrees on. Some work specific, for example, coming from us relates to trying to assess the economic impact of open data. There's a report we published, I believe, back in January or February. Laura is also in this call, was one of the authors. Laura, you there? Can you perhaps remind us, for the ones who don't know yet, about the Econ report you've been writing with Esther over the last few months? That is one way, perhaps, to assess at least the economic part of open data impact.
Yes, so basically we did it along two different approaches. So we looked at, okay, what value can be brought with the help of open data, and especially the reuse of open data. So we estimated the market size of it. We also estimated the amount of jobs that are created by it, but much more, okay, not much more. On the other hand, it's also interesting to look at, okay, reuse examples and see in what ways not just economical impact can be created, but also societal impact. So in terms of what examples can we see of applications that have been developed using open data that in some way or form help us save time, or save, in some cases, it's even used to save lives. And it's very interesting to think about that and talk about that and see how it would create a potential of that kind of value for the whole of Europe.
Yeah, and it is natural that we probably need separate frameworks for separate areas, even just, or possibly even industries. So impact in transport is probably a very specific topic. And I guess possibly you, Jelle, you can actually use your communities to try to come up with ideas. So if we needed to assess the impact of open data in transport on the transport sector, what could be used there? And the practitioners, again, I used the word protagonist a few times today. The people who actually work in a sector, we will have very strong ideas on that. The joint contribution across industries may actually be something that gives us hints of what to use. And I believe the most member states who participate to our work are really looking forward to some kind of a shared ground, so that not only we can try to measure impact, but we can also use the same metric. And we can do some kind of comparison, benchmarking between the countries, learn from the others, and so on.
Yes, let me give I think I can give an example of it. So, for example, in the Netherlands, the expectation is that, well, before COVID, 38% are expectation of more traffic in the Netherlands in 2021. Well, data is essentially for this question. Is very essential to collecting. Okay, where are the traffic goes? Where is where are how many people go with our public transport at what time? So the data is essential for it, but when we say, okay, we're using data, and we said, hey, we have to make this decisions about it. What is the impact of the decision making on this from the data? So that kind of examples is very difficult to measure, but we are working on this framework, and we don't know exactly the way what it is, but I think when we are asking the communities as well, and we share the knowledge about this. I think there will be way to measure this and to get an impact framework. As I mentioned.
Yeah, and the first who finds it, give me a call, right?
Yes. Yes. Me too.
It's a bit like, yeah, it's like El Dorado. It's a bit of a chimera. So many have been working on this, and there's no final answer yet. Also aware of time, I would like to save some time if we have any questions from our audience, specifically to you, after your kindness in being with us today, but also in general. And this would be a recurring opportunity for people joining us on these calls. If you have questions for us at the European Data Portal and Support Center for Data Sharing as well, now, because this is a trial and it's just the first time, we don't have that large audience perhaps, but if you would like to ask us questions to Jelle or to us, this is the moment for you. We have about 10 minutes, I would say, before we wrap up and say goodbye. So warm up your microphone, think about a good question for Jelle or for us. And if you have nothing for us, perhaps you can go back to Jelle with some last question. Also for the people on my side, by the way, Eline, Soraya, Laura, if there is anything you would like to ask Jelle, we saw him every day. Not that often, but this would be a nice opportunity also to find out more about the work the Dutch are doing. I'm also checking the group chat in case anybody was shy. So.
Well, while we're waiting for potentially others to speak, I do have a question. Given that we are more in isolation right now across Europe, and just looking at the Netherlands Pacific right now, what advice, I suppose, do you have to encourage others to, one, continue publishing open data, whether it just be data that can be used for COVID or just in general, and two, how to encourage reusers to keep, well, one, finding them and creating services that can use these data?
Also, because you said you have been working on COVID with your communities as well, so that is interesting.
Yes. Nowadays we have a lot of fora and a lot of possibilities to keep in contact with each other. So I think this will be not the problem anymore. Maybe I want to give you one example. We are also part of the Dutch AI coalition. It goes about data sharing, and we are working in work groups with data sharing and also with start and scale-ups. We are we are organizing meetings like this, for example, and start and scale-ups can go to us and they said, hey, I want to use that government data, or this government data is crucial for building as company as well. So working together with this programs and for us, start and scale-ups very helpful. I think it's crucial, and I want to share this with you.
So COVID not an excuse to stop sharing.
Not an excuse.
Not at
no.
all. Okay.
That links me to a possible follow-up question. How do you see within the Netherlands, maybe not the balance, but the people or the stakeholders who work with open data and data sharing working with each other, or do you see them being parallel or finding words now? Do you see them being in conflict with one another, or that they go hand in hand in the Netherlands?
Yeah, do they mix up or they are separate worlds?
Well, I think they mixed up, and not separate worlds. Well, it's my opinion. So No, no, they are mixed up in this.
That actually reminds me of another question, perhaps more on the basic level. That is, do you think the Dutch citizens understand the concept of open data in the first place? Do you still need to put effort in communicating what you're doing, or would you say that citizens understand open data in particular, and data sharing is more complicated, I guess, but open should be a bit easier to communicate? What's the situation in the Netherlands?
Well, we in our data request we have also the what kind of work they do. So we are see if the request of the users are students, or they are interesting people who want to know more about the decision making in the Netherlands, or they are from our media, um, or they are from business, and every kind of reuser has their own question. So, for example, an interesting people who want to know more about, well, let's say COVID-19, they want to see visualizations of data, and they want to see, oh, how can I see the visualization of data. They are not interesting in working with the data and to combine these things. And but people who are building apps, for example, they are really want to combine data, because it's one of their business model to combine the apps. So there is a lot of the knowledge about data, but the showing the data, this a visualization, or it's the really reusable data, or this the show of the data is important. But I think that the knowledge and what the decisions are made with the data are really important with it.
We had a similar experience with the European Data Portal over the last couple of months. The Commission asked us to run a dedicated section for COVID-19, of course, and we realized as we were creating the concepts for it that just listing the data sets was not enough. So we, in the end, the proposition became like a triad of three elements. The data, fine, for the data reusers, the data scientists and so on, the engineers, yes. But also, for the first time, we started reviewing data-driven initiatives. So websites, companies, organizations that were publishing perhaps dashboards or let's say digital products that perhaps did not give you the data directly, but let you play with it, visualizing it, consult it in a better way. And then we also realized that for some of us, perhaps data is a bit still today a bit of an abstract concept, but if I tell you what you can do with it, then I get it. So we invested a lot of effort writing data stories, like long blog posts telling you that using these data sets and these data sets that you don't need to look into, but trust us, you can actually understand how this works, or how perhaps forecast how the economy will go, and so on. And it was a lot of effort. In the end, we wrote a few of them now, almost a dozen or something, and it's a lot of work, we realized. But personally, it's one of the best things perhaps we've done for COVID, because those will stay to testify how data was useful.
Well, we are working on a pilot with on migration data, and we give users some multiple options to collect the information inside the data. So, for example, engineers could also use the data, and for media or interesting people, we show visualizations about the data. So we give them multiple options to get information about the data. I think it's something similar as you mentioned, Gianfranco.
So good to know that also for others have kind of experience. I'm checking again the chat for last question. I don't think I see any. So I will start wrapping up. Anything you would like to add, or anything you would like to promote, perhaps inviting us to attend those user groups? When is the next happening, or how to find you? Because in the end, we all need to promote our work because it's for the good of the citizens and society we serve. So how do we find about more about your work, and how do we actually join your user groups?
Yes, now, well, you can always go to our Dutch portal where we showed the last the last things we do. Our user meetings are regularly 4 times a year. One of the positive things about this time is that we are also working our webinars. So not only user meetings in The Hague where you have to go, no, also a webinar where everyone around Europe, around the world could follow it. Next week on Thursday, there's where you have another user meeting. This goes specially about one of our communities, education. So we are especially focusing on education community, about how to create interaction, about the reuses are built with education data. And well, I think this, like the European you do with the data talks, would be very helpful to show what we are doing, and also the page on the European data portal with insights from countries' perspective. We could also let's keep updated with each other.
And so, I hope you will promote us as well in
yes,
those
of course. Let's say the communities for us is very exciting. We are starting with it, and I hope you keep updated with it, and we can keep you updated, of course.
Thanks a lot, Jelle. Any last remarks from my side of the team, Laura, Soraya, Line? Otherwise, we can thank Jelle for his kindness being with us, and wish us good luck for the future of this experiment. And I hope to have you perhaps as a guest again later next year, perhaps as a catch up on the topics you named today, how progress went, what you learned in the meantime.
Yes, well, no problem.
So thanks again, and thanks to everybody who was with us live, and hope to see you again the next time. Remember to check the let's say the show notes for the references to the Jelle's national portal for the Netherlands, and any kind of other element we named today during the session. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.